Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay in the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. As we wind down the month of July already, August is coming upon us. It will be football season very soon. My name is Jeff Sharon, alongside Eric Lopez and Brian Murphy. We are the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Gentlemen, the rains are falling, which means it's practice time. Remember the days when, UCF football would not have an indoor practice facility and the reports on the website were like, UCF canceled practice again today, and they would head into they'd have to do this in the education gym. Do you guys remember these days at all?
I do.
You remember that? Eric?
I know. How did college football teams survive all these years without an indoor facility?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Well, I don't know.
Especially in the state of Florida, it rains every day in the summer.
Exactly, during practice time. Exactly. So, well, we don't have to worry about that anymore since we have an indoor practice facility. And USF is catching up on that, and reportedly. Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
Sure.
It's taking them long enough. All right. So, we are blackandgoldbanneret.com. We are SB Nation's home for the UCF Knights. You can follow us at blackandgoldbanneret.com, UCF_Banneret on Twitter, and Facebook.com/blackandgoldbanneret. All right, here's the agenda. We've got some listener questions we're going to get to, and we're going to lead off with that. I know I've been promising that for a while, and then, news happened all throughout the month of July. I know, unbelievable, right? And so we're going to finally get to these questions. We're also going to we've got an interview with Bridget Callahan, UCF women's soccer alum. Women's soccer is going to be starting up in the next, Eric, 2 weeks now? They're going to, I think they have an early August preseason game. Is that right?
UCF season going to be going, and Bridget Callahan in her second season with the Orlando Pride in the NWSL. We'll talk about her journey to the Pride, as well as her time during UCF, where she played from 2014 to 2017, including 2 NCAA tournament appearances, 2 conference titles. So, yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that and her thoughts on the World Cup that just passed. She played with 2 of those 4 alums that played at the World Cup for UCF. So a lot of fun catching up with Bridget Callahan.
And we'll also we'll dive into Eric's top 25 games of 2018, 2019. Eric, last time we checked, you were running into some writer's block on that. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a lot of good games. It's hard to rank them and try to think which one's better and what the criteria is. So, yeah, it was a fun year, boys. I mean, this was a great year, and it's going to be interesting to see now as we get closer to starting the fall here of 2019 and into 2019-2020, how they're going to top the past year.
Yeah. All right. So we've got that and plenty more to get to. All right. So let's dive in first with these reader questions. And some of these we may have touched upon in previous episodes, but maybe things have changed from then on. But we got some good ones here. So let's go ahead and dive in. Our first question comes from our Facebook page, facebook.com/blackandgoldbanneret. And it comes from Jeff Coons. Jeff asks, will the American fill the UConn spot? And if so, who should it be? If football only, will they also pick up an Olympic sport school as well? So we more or less have an answer on this from Mike Oresco himself. Brian, right? You were at AAC football media days, and Oresco pretty much put the kibosh on a replacement for a football team, right?
Basically put the kibosh on the odds of the AAC or UCF, or excuse me, AAC going out to look for anybody to replace UConn. They're not going to, in his words, they're not going to reach out to anybody. They're comfortable at 11, but if someone wants to come to them and speak about maybe joining the conference, then they will listen. But certainly it seems like more than likely that, yes, they're fine with 11 right now. So
it's so basically it's like, we won't call you, you call us, basically, right?
Correct. Exactly.
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 All right, so but that's on the football side. Nobody bothered asking him about the Olympic sports side.
Right.
So I haven't heard anything on that. I mean, everyone's going to speculate from here to eternity on it. But Eric, what do you think? Do you think that they might be looking for somebody to even it out on the Olympic sports side, or no?
No, I don't even think. I think the only thing they might look at is this waiver they're going to eventually have to do to make sure they could get rid of the divisions and still hold the conference championship game in football, which they should be able to. If for some reason there's some resistance, then they might consider a 12 team. But I really do. I think they're going to stay the way they are, and I don't see them really that interested in the Olympic sports because it really doesn't hurt them that much. I mean, really, I think the big question is going to be, as we get to the basketball portion of this media days and the season in a few months, is the scheduling. Will they change the schedule to where with an 11-team league, do you consider doing it, moving it up to where you play everybody twice and have a 20-game conference schedule? I think that's going to be more of the hotter topic as far as the Olympic sports are concerned, in particular with basketball, than adding a team.
See, I think that's going to be really difficult, though, with a sport like, for example, volleyball, because they just announced that they were going to switch to this divisional format and shrink the conference season by one. Now you're going to have to extend the conference season again in order to fit in those extra, I think probably 2 extra weekends worth of conference play. Plus you're going to have a conference tournament. I mean, that's a tough ask, man, don't you think?
Yeah, and their response to me is tough.
Yeah, but coaches aren't going to. The coaches aren't going to be too pleased about that. I know that, and they're the ones that have the power on that. Them and the ADs.
No, the ADs have the power on that. They're going to tell you we don't care.
But they're looking at but the ADs also are looking at the budget too. Let's not forget.
Yeah, what are the volleyball coaches going to do? Walk out? I mean, there's nothing they can do about it. There's no leverage here. Like, I mean, Brian could speak to this. I mean, I love all the sports, and I'm the defendant of softball, but they're not going to make this decision to please volleyball. They're not going to bring somebody in to help volleyball or softball or soccer. They're going to do this for either football or basketball. It just is. They're not going to. They don't care. Like,
I get that. I get that. But it's the basketball side is, I think, the part that's interesting. I mean, are we still? If they invite somebody for basketball, are we still in sort of the VCU camp, or is there anything else that you guys have seen?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because we can forward Jeff. If he wants more on this discussion, we had basically a whole podcast about this, like who should join, who should replace UConn. Back about a month ago, podcast number 167, where we just threw out a bunch of teams with baseless speculation because it's sports media.
Because it's fun and it's also July. I mean, what do you want from us?
Yeah, because hashtag content.
That's right, hashtag. Yes, we have archives. We archive all our episodes. You can go back to them and check them out. Thank you, promo. Good plug.
And
here's the point.
Don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes and Google Play and all that. Anyway, go ahead.
Leave a review, please. Leave a review. There's not going to be. I don't think there's going to be any realignment or expansion in any leagues anytime soon. So I hate to break the bubble there, but I think this is what we're going to have for the most part across the board in the major conferences. I really don't believe we're going to see any major changes anytime soon because I think we've seen here, I think the issue is, and we brought it up in that episode 167, is there's nobody you can bring in right now that's going to add any value financially, which is really what matters here to these ADs is what can bring up more value. And if there's nobody that can, VCU, as much as I like them, they're not going to add a cent to your TV deal. And then if you're a school is like, why do I want to share what I'm making right now with another school coming in?
Yeah, especially on the basketball side. I mean, like it or not. I mean, UConn was, even though they've struggled last few years, they were still one of the premier brands in the conference in basketball. And they, you eject UConn for VCU. Does your value go up? I would say no. Does it stay the same? I doubt it.
I think at the end of the day, they're just going to go with the teams they have. I mean, we've seen this with the Big 12.
Yeah.
The Big 12 stayed at 10 because they're making so much money. I mean, that's the funny thing. Everybody keeps talking about the Big 12 expanding. Why? They're making so much money. The only way they're ever going to expand is if Oklahoma or Texas leaves. And we actually, I don't know if you saw this week, but the Iowa State athletic director, Pollard, who I think is very underrated, admitted saying that, hey, if Oklahoma and Texas leaves, we're basically screwed because if they leave, the entire league's value goes from making what we're making now to making basically $2 to $3 million a year.
Yeah, if they leave, we're the Sun Belt West.
Right, and which is why I don't understand. And you wrote about this, Jeff. God, I want to say it was a year ago, maybe. Why are UCF people and other people so excited about, hey, let's go to the Big 12, even if Oklahoma and Texas leaves?
Well, there's only one reason. It's because it's the only conference with that has an automatic bid. That's an autonomy conference that has any room for anyone. That's why. And by the way, it happens to be full of Southern teams, but no teams in the state of Florida. I'm not saying that's the correct rationale. I'm saying that's why.
Right, but I think people have this mythical idea that they're going to make more money, and I don't think that's the case. And this idea that they're just automatically going to be an automatic bid, and not necessarily. That's what happened to the Big East. It disappeared. We don't even know. I don't think there's going to be moves until we know what the playoff system will look like in 2025, which I think will expand to 8. And what if everybody has then we'll probably have a better idea.
Yeah, all right.
I don't buy it.
All right, so we've answered that question. Roxanne Petzold, our friend Roxanne asked. Oh, she's got a softball question for you, Elo.
Of course.
What's so we'll just let you riff on this for a while.
Brian has Sam Unger that ask him baseball questions.
Yeah, I'm gonna search through the baseball stuff to see if you can answer a Sam question, but Roxanne asks, what's the story on the 5 new transfers to UCF softball, Eric Lopez?
All right, wow. We got a lot.
Putting you on the spot here.
Well, yeah. Well, a couple of them are pretty obvious. You got Boise State transfers. You can make the connections there. Obviously, Coach Ball, coached them and recruited them to go to Boise State. So that makes sense. I like the pitcher, Manka. She was I think it's pronounced. She's was the number 2 at Boise, very young pitcher, had a really good year under Coach Ball Malone in her last year there at Boise State. And I think she will add, potentially the most depth that the pitching staff's ever had in this program. You could have a legitimate 3 pitchers staff on the weekends, depending on how things shake out. And I'm not just saying that they're going to be as good as Audis and Turnier were, but there is a 1-2 punch. They could have 3 pitchers options here. So I think that's the big impact. And then the other ones are, as you mentioned, are bats. They're trying to get some extra bats. It's no secret. They struggled down the stretch offensively. They were near the bottom in the league in scoring runs and hitting, and I think they're trying to find some players here. They get some bats that will add some depth in certain positions and try to improve this offense, and they get them over the hump next year. So I think that's the story behind these transfers, which, by the way, is now a part of the sports landscape. With the transfer portal in college athletics, you're going to see more and more movements and departures in all your sports, especially Olympic sports, where it's a lot easier to get out. You don't have to sit out a year. So I think this has become more the norm. I know some people have asked me about it, like, wow, that's really different than what Renee. Not really. It's just a little different. Renee used to grab transfers, but she would go into the JUCO level and grab a lot of players from the JUCO level to fill in spots. Whereas I think Sydney is going to be more aggressive, obviously, in grabbing players on the transfer portal that they're available. And let's be honest, players are going to be interested in coming here. One of the players that's coming here is potentially could be playing for the Australian national team and has international experience. It's very talented. So I think it's just to upgrade the offense. And I think the pitcher Maka is the really exciting one to see how she meshes there with Vasquez, who will be entering her second year. And then, of course, Aaliyah White, who's in her senior year. Yeah. And I think part of this also is who, you got to build a staff for after Aaliyah White, when she graduates in 2020.
All right, Murph, here's that baseball question for you. It's not really a question, but Coach UCF Baseball and Coach Levelade announced that Ted Tom, the volunteer assistant, is moving on. He was their volunteer assistant. Now, we talked before about the NCAA inexplicably voting down turning that third assistant coach position for baseball and softball into a paid position. So Ted Tom, who, by the way, prior to UCF was an interim head coach at Cincinnati for 2 games, is now having to move on. Now, Sam commented, our buddy Sam Unger, commented to Coach Lovelady in Coach's tweet thanking Ted for his services to UCF. He said, "I blame the stupid NCAA for not allowing a third paid assistant." So our question to you, not really from the fans, kind of from me, but yes, sort of from the fans, is Sam right?
He's 100% right. This is why Ted Tom, his hand was forced. I don't know, if everything was equal, if he could have gotten, paid here at UCF, then maybe he would have stayed. But the fact is, he took a non-paying job and saw there was a paying job available in Western Kentucky, and that's why he went to Western Kentucky. That's exactly why he left. It's too bad because Ted Tom was a good coach, and a lot of guys, a lot of hitters owed a lot of talked often about the work he did with them. It's unfortunate, and it goes back to the NCAA just sort of being selfish and not wanting to pay baseball or softball, because it was bundled together. The third assistant coach of these universities not wanting to pay the third assistant coach. This is what happens. You lose good coaches. That's why Ted Tom left. People are freaking out with baseball because of the guys who are transferring out of the program right now. Again, this is just the way it is today. Kids have more agency and more ability to kind of dictate where they want to go. So, but this is not that. This is not Ted Tom trying to escape UCF for a better situation. It's a better situation, but it's not like he hated UCF. It's that he had to go to provide food for his family at this point.
Yeah.
He's not getting paid. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, kind of seems unbelievable in a way that that's where we are in this part of college athletics, where we have it very much have the haves and the have-nots, and it's that stark of a difference.
Well, you called it right, Jeff. It's a disgrace that the administrators kind of weaseled themselves out of this. They can't open it, I guess, till 2021 again. But to not allow a third full-time paying position for baseball, because this affected softball too, because softball is in the table as well, is absolutely outrageous. And it's hilarious to me when you have these administrators that are making 6 figures. How about we just put a volunteer positions for all majority of the administrative positions, see how they like it.
Yeah. Right,
Eric,
exactly.
Eric coming in hot. I knew you would be coming. Steve,
but it's right. It's
he's
stupid.
right.
I mean, this should never happen. Ted Tom should still be a coach here.
Yeah.
But he has no choice. He has no choice.
That sucks. Let's go to a couple questions. These are our last 2 questions that come via Twitter. This one comes from Steve Lynch, whose handle is UCF Defrost. UCF Defrost. I think it's A+ handle, Steve, by the way.
Is he still bitter? Still bitter?
I don't know.
Sounds like a bitter
Sounds
handle.
like he might be. Which non-drafted UCF football player will have the biggest impact in the NFL next year? Brian, this sounds like a you question.
Which non-drafted UCF football player?
Non-drafted UCF football player. Well, only one was drafted last year, so.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, there's a bunch of other guys who got, got signed. I forgot the final count for who got signed for UDFA contracts. Can I just go back to my boy, Rashard Kazi? He's sort of my boy at this point. I mean, I talked him up I talked about the best DB or the best cover corner or the best cover man in that secondary, after the Cincinnati game and really through the last 5 or 6 games of the season. I thought he was great. So he gets picked up by the Falcons. And so maybe he's got a good shot there just because I think his ability to play both outside and inside, he played mostly nickelback last year, give him some versatility, and he was great as a cover guy. So maybe that, but again, have not delved into the different situations that all of the guys went to. I think it was Wyatt Miller signed with the Jets, Matthew Wright signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I got to make sure these guys are actually still in camp. None of them have been cut.
I think I know that Mac Loudermilk had his tryout with the Bucks, and they elected not to keep him on board.
And the Jaguars did not keep Dredrick Snelson.
Right. They also they let Dredrick go. So I was surprised at that. I thought that he might have had the best chance to latch on somewhere, but I think they still have Michael Colubiali still on their roster. And the other one I wasn't sure about was Taj McGowan. I didn't see if he was sticking around in Jacksonville or not. Have you seen anything on that?
Well, Taj got an invite to rookie camp, and then I guess succeeded well enough to get himself an invite to full training camp, which so he made it to the next level, which is now he's with the team for training camp. Doesn't mean he has a roster spot in the slightest. I mean, certainly he could be released when they cut down from 90 to 50, whatever it is. What's the cut? I don't know.
I think it's 90 to 75 is the first cut.
Right, and then the 75 to 55. I forgot what the cut numbers are, but
53.
Anyway, he has worked his way from being solely a rookie camp invite to now he's with the club for training camp, actual training camp.
Okay, good. Eric, do you have a nominee?
I'm going to throw one out of left field. And again, it's like Brian preference it, assuming, they make past camp and everything. But I'm going to go and throw a bone for Matthew Wright. And the reason
you took my pick.
He's a kicker, first of all. He's a kicker. So if you can find a kicker that makes basically undrafted and make no money, you're going to take that opportunity. And he's in Pittsburgh. They didn't have a great kicking situation last year. I think Boswell was terrible, inconsistent. So that's probably a legit open competition over there in Pittsburgh to see, hey, can we upgrade at the kicking position? And they'll always go with a cheaper option over a veteran in a situation like that. So if he can prove himself to be solid, and I personally, you can make the argument that Matthew Wright is the greatest kicker of all time at UCF. Yeah. Very accurate. I think he was way better than Matt Prater was during his time. Matt Prater missed a lot of big kicks.
A lot of short kicks too.
Bingo, bada boom, bada bing.
Missed extra points.
A lot of little kicks, and against Ohio,
And he's a Pro Bowler.
And an NFL record holder. He's an immortal.
We'll get into this in the next few episodes here as we get closer to kickoff. But I am concerned. I am concerned about the UCF kicking game because I think Matthew Wright was kind of taken for granted. We just took him for granted. Just kick it up there and occasional field goals. But the guy never missed. It seemed like, and so I'm going to give him the nod and say I think he has a shot because kickers always have an opportunity there during preseason.
For his career, go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to mention, on that point, Matthew Wright, his field goal at Memphis was probably the most unsung play of the game before the half.
Yeah.
Taking that game from a 30-14 game to 30-17 was again, it was a huge kick that no one really paid attention to because Memphis was running UCF out of the building. But it was a kind of a momentum swing. So, yeah, he made a bunch of big kicks. But I will say Chris Boswell is signed through 2022. I just don't think I see the Steelers cutting a kicker with that much left on his contract to sign another kicker.
Well, how much is guaranteed, though, Brian? Because you know this. I mean, if they can get rid of him with money-wise and not affect him too much, then don't get him. Because he was not good. He wasn't good.
Right. No, I know he wasn't great last year. I'm trying to look at cap hits, dead cap.
Well, here's the thing that on Boswell, I actually just pulled this up from the bastion of journalism called ProFootballRumors.com. They reported on June 29th that they're actually citing Mark Kaberle, forgive me, Mark, of The Athletic. Says that Boswell, the front office at Pittsburgh reworked Boswell's contract in May, where they're putting off he was due a $2 million roster bonus, but they renegotiated his contract to put that off until after the final preseason game. So he gets $2 million for making the final roster now. So that changes the equation a little bit, don't you think?
Yeah, and I will say, his base, he has a base salary left of about $8 million, $9 million. So,
but that's non-guaranteed, I would imagine.
That's
right?
non-guaranteed. And then he has roster bonuses. He has signing bonuses that he has about $5 million in signing bonuses left. That'll be doled out $1.2 million over each of the next 4 seasons. Those are guaranteed.
Yeah.
So,
okay, all right.
This is phenomenal, by the way. We're the only podcast in the world that just down Chris Boswell's contract.
Yeah,
and his future.
Full breakdown. Matty Wright, you know the drill. By the way, Matty was 12 of 14 last year in field goals. Go ahead.
I'll throw this out. Even if he doesn't make the Pittsburgh team, as you know, kickers, if he impresses enough, he could end up somewhere else because there's always going to be kickers that get let go during the season because they struggle, i.e. the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, i.e. the LA Chargers. They always stink up with the kickers. And he might find opportunities elsewhere. So, you know.
Who's the Bucks kicker right now?
Oh, shoot, come on.
I don't think Roberto. See, I used to know all this. I think it's it says here that
it's not Aguayo.
No, they let him go. I think it's Matt Gay at the moment, but again,
correct.
You know, they mention him as kind of like a he was the Lou Groza winner in 2017. So he played at Utah Valley soccer at Utah Valley before he moved up. So okay, he went to Utah actually. So all right.
Fantastic.
Am I the only one that's wondering too about the UCF kicking game? Like, who's going to be? I know they're going. I'm sure they're going to. We're going to hear about how they're talented and all that, but whoever the next kicker will be an experience.
Well, yeah, that's true. Open competition, but I will say this: I don't think Josh Heupel's MO at this point is going to be. Man, I'm really worried about all the field goals we're going to be kicking this year. Because
no, you're right.
The last 4 years, Matt Wright's 4 years at UCF, he attempted 20 or more field goals only once, and last year he attempted 14. So in 14 games.
But to Brian's point, I mean, one of the bigger kicks he made was in Memphis that really helped change momentum of the game. I mean, a missed field goal can kill momentum. Not to mention extra points. I mean, I'm just saying, let's not take him for granted. Because if you're in a close game, you know, a missed kick here can make the difference between going undefeated and having a loss. I mean, so I think it's, you know, we're going to focus a bunch on the quarterback position, and I understand it. It's the most high-profile position. But I think the kicking game is an interesting question. One of the questions I have going into the season. There you go. That's a good.
I guess. I don't know the competition much, but, you know, the 3 guys who were there, they're 2 freshmen, and then the redshirt senior Dylan Barnes, who, you know, has been on the team the last 2 years. He's played 1 game since joining in 2017, but because he's the redshirt senior, I would assume he has, you know, the advantage. But yeah, who knows? We just don't know right now.
Well, Donald Delahaye, you know, that could have been you. I'm just saying, you know. You knew I had to go there. I'm sorry. Nothing against Donald. He's getting his shot at the CFL. So good luck to Donald. I hope he latches on. But it's Dylan Barnes and Daniel Obarski from Chandler, Arizona. By the way, are the 2.
Are we ruling out Connor Piazza, which just has a fantastic name? Piazza just takes back to all my old. As a kid watching the Dodgers, I'm
not going to rule out the redshirt freshman from Eustis High School, Connor Piazza, because I can't rule out that name. By the way, so let's see. There was another Twitter. Okay, here we go. We're gonna wrap up with this one. This is from DeChase Cashin, whose Twitter handle is CHC Vols. You need a better Twitter handle, DeChase. Yo, can we get a Mount Rushmore of UCF athletics? Ask him one sport or more, or overall, and he says, I think overall would be trickier. And you know what, DeChase? We're going to go for the trickier one here, just for you. All right, so an overall UCF athletics Mount Rushmore, all right? All sports we're lumping into one, okay? So I would say coaches, ADs, players, you name it. Who wants this one first?
I'm only thinking about players, though. I'm not really thinking about like ADs and coaches.
You want to do players only then?
Yeah.
All right. Let's do players only. All right, Murph, you're up. Go.
I go Culpepper.
Okay.
Michelle Akers.
Good.
And then I'm trying to stump. Then I don't know. I got those 2.
I I agree with those.
It's a relay
two,
race.
So.
I think you got to have those two up there. I think you got to have those two.
Yeah, I agree. I Culpepper put UCF football on the map. In the division when they first started Division I, Michelle Akers speaks for itself. All right, let me ask you both this: you put Bo Clark in for his accomplishments at D2, or do you put a Jermaine Taylor because he's considered the best D1 player? I think one of them got to be there, right?
Yeah, I feel that. I'm trying to think of Bo Clark's name, and I couldn't think of Bo
Why Bo Clark and because I think we should have a coach and an AD.
Oh,
why?
Okay.
Why?
Well, he didn't mention specifically players only. So let's do I'm going to do the more challenging one, but I would put Bo just barely over Jermaine to answer your question. Nothing against Jermaine. I would just put Bo. And then who else would you have as your...
I mean, Jermaine is the highest draft pick in the NBA. Play the NBA. So I would go Jermaine personally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think that's the discussion that you could have.
Okay. You need one more.
Unless, if you want to put a coach, I mean, Torchy Clark could certainly be in that conversation based on putting basketball at UCF. So that's certainly an argument. It just depends on how you define Mount Rushmore and what your criteria is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again, whenever, because obviously every team everywhere, college and pro, does this. It's a fun little little think piece you can write about who are the 4 best, whatever. But no one ever says who are the 4. No one includes coaches. They never included coaches onto Mount Rushmore.
Very seldom.
Yeah, you think about players.
Why not?
Yeah, it's only players. No one cares.
Coaches? Well, first of all, what coach and AD would even would be quantified to put there? I just don't think they.
Well, that's where I think it's interesting.
Danny White.
I would put Danny White.
I knew it.
He's not even finished yet. Can we wait?
He doesn't have to be. He doesn't have to be. It doesn't say.
How do you know that? How do you know that? We don't know how this ends.
I'm just saying. I'm saying he's the leader in the clubhouse right now. Because of how he has changed UCF athletics fundamentally from where it was before he was there to where it is now. And then for a coach, dadgummit,
Say it. Don't say it. Don't
do
say
it. Don't do it, Jeffrey. I swear to God, we'll hang up on you.
I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it.
Hey, thank you.
See, that's.
I got verklempt there for a minute. I would put Torchy Clark. Yeah.
I'd put
It's
Torchy
fine.
Clark in there. So I would say Dante Culpepper, Michelle Akers, Torchy Clark, and Danny White.
That's fine. But for the fans who I think they would more enjoy 4 players. Can we really think of 2 other players who would deserve to be on this?
I would. Yeah. All right. Let's do that. All right. So I think Culpepper and Akers need to be on there.
Mm-hmm.
I would put Shaquem Griffin.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty good. Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Player. Yeah.
And I just love the whole narrative of Shaquem is similar to a narrative of UCF. You keep doubting a guy, and then all of a sudden, here they are.
Yeah.
And then.
Plus, he was really good. It wasn't like it was
plus
just
he was also freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And then, golly, I don't want to pick another football player. I really don't.
Drew Butera.
I love Drew. I love Drew to death. I don't think he's it. Although he would be right up there. I'll be honest with you. I'm trying to. You know what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to think of a male athlete in a non-revenue sport. So
right.
So I'm trying to think of a baseball player, a soccer player, a golfer.
The problem is, I think really you have to go with a female in that regard if you're going to go.
That's the other thing. Okay, if you were going to go with a women's athlete, a female athlete in that 4th position, who would you go with, Eric?
I think it's Stephanie Best. She helped bring the softball program. It's her or Coach Gillespie, right? But we're not going to do coaches to Murphy's Law. So we're going to go Stephanie Best, the first ever inductee of the UCF Athletics Hall of Fame. In softball. And when the softball program started, I remember this. It's funny for me to say this, considering now I'm making a living covering softball. But I'm like, is softball really going to work here at UCF? What the hell are we talking about? And then there's this blonde, hot, attractive young lady who is a superstar player that's hitting the ball miles away that helped put interest into the program and helped them make the tournament in 2005. You got to cover that closely. To me, she's kind of like Michelle Akers. I've always thought her and Michelle Akers are two of the most important athletes, female athletes, in the history of UCF athletics because they put their respective sports on the map.
I think okay. Now I'm gonna go way out of left field, but for some, I found one. I'm gonna go way out of left field, and some old time UCF fans are gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about him." PGA golfer Robert Dameron. All right. Played 3 years at UCF.
Silence from the Dow.
I'm gonna. Okay, here's why.
Educate.
He's a local kid from Dr. Phillips. Went to Dr. Phillips High School. Went to UCF from 91 to 94. Was an All-American 3 times. Won 5 college events at UCF. Immediately turned pro. A UCF Hall of Famer, inducted in 2002. And won 2 career professional tournaments. The 2001 Byron Nelson Classic, and he made a great career on the web.com tour. He won the Athens Regional Foundation Classic also. So now he didn't win a major, but let me tell you how hard it is to win any tournament in the PGA. And Robert Dameron did it, and a truly great athlete. But I'll tell you, man, that's a tough one, man. That is really tough. I think I agree with you. I would go with otherwise I would go with Stephanie Best, Eric. I'll
throw another name on this on the consideration, and it may come a little quirky, but here it's Sean Beckton, and I'll tell you why it's Sean Beckton.
No, it would be a good choice. Yeah, go ahead.
He was an great football player, great receiver, still among the greatest receivers in the history of this program. Did it in the 1AA era, and then look at the job he did here as a position coach, as a wide receiver coach, and as a defensive back coach, and all the players that have come out of UCF and then play the NFL that coached under Beckton.
Yeah, that were wide receivers and defensive backs.
I mean, he's the only guy you think about that has made an impact in this football program in different eras, at the 1AA era, all the way to conference in the Division I era, and up until recently.
I think he started when we were Division II, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. I mean, you could look that up, but I think he would be another guy that I would consider under consideration because he's accomplished and contributed to UCF as an athlete, as a player, and as a coach.
Yeah. So, all right, no argument there. All right, let's. And by the way, Sean Beckton did start at UCF his freshman year. UCF was Division II. So
he's done Division II, 1AA, and Division I.
Yep. So
he's impacted the program. How many people could say that?
Right. You're exactly right. So, all right, so that'll do it for our first Ask Black and Gold Banneret. I want to thank everybody who submitted questions. We answered, believe it or not, people, those are all the questions we were asked. So you people need to step up your game next time and send us your questions, and maybe next show we'll answer some more.
There were other questions, but it had involved with like, hey, Brian, what do you think the Yankees are going to do at the deadline? Which,
yeah, I'm like, yeah, who do I draft as my backup quarterback for my NFL fantasy league? Yeah. So, Jeff, do you have any eligibility left? No, I don't. Garrett Weiss, strength of spirit. No, thanks. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little women's soccer. Bridget Callahan stops by to talk with us about her post-UCF career playing with the Orlando Pride and the Women's World Cup, which just finished up just recently. She didn't play in it, but she played alongside a few people who did. We'll have that and plenty more when we return. Don't go away. This is Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. We're back after this.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, Brian Murphy with you. You know, we're only just a couple of weeks away from women's soccer starting up as the first. It's usually the traditionally first sport to get going. They have an exhibition match at Alabama on Sunday, August the 11th. My God, that is 2 weeks from this coming Sunday. Oh, God, the season's starting. Two exhibitions, one Sunday, August 11th at Alabama, one at home a week later, Sunday, August 18th against North Texas. They start their season Thursday, August 22nd at home against Wisconsin. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. But Eric Lopez, we know all about the excellent UCF women's soccer alumni that we've seen over the years, and it really has picked up. We had 4 UCF alumni playing in the World Cup. Our interviewee this week did not play in the World Cup, but played with several players who did, and she's a professional herself with the Orlando Pride, Eric Lopez.
That's right. That's Bridget Callahan, who played at UCF from 2014 to 2017, 2 conference championships in the American Conference, 3 NCAA tournament appearances, including a deep run in 2014. She's in her second season with the Orlando Pride in the NWSL. She's playing among her teammates Alex Morgan of the World Cup champion United States national team. But she also, you mentioned, played with a couple of the 2 players on that UCF alums, including Sophie Howard, and played for Scotland, and as well as Kat Sousa, who's on the Brazilian team. She played with both of them on the World Cup. I talked to her about that and also her journey from how she got to UCF and as well from UCF to the big leagues here in the NWSL with the Orlando Pride. Here is now my conversation with Bridget Callahan on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. And joining us now here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast, of course, she was the star, one of the parts of the UCF soccer program, of course. Part of that great team in 2017 that won the American Conference regular season title, and of course had that memorable years and multiple NCAA tournament appearances. Of course, now playing professionally for the Orlando Pride. Here is Bridget Callahan joining us here. How you doing?
I am wonderful. Actually, I'm going through some pretty bad Orlando weather, but that is Orlando for you. But no, I'm doing very great and super excited to be on the show, so thank you. Yeah,
that's weather in Orlando in July. Who knew, right? That's the norm. But let me ask you about what's it been like playing with the Orlando Pride. And I don't know, for those that may not know the full story, how you got to be a part of the Orlando Pride here, because that's a story fascinating in itself. So just tell us a little bit about the journey to where you're at now, where you're been playing a full season here with the Pride.
Well, so I ended my senior year at UCF in fall of 2017, which, like you were saying, was a great year, and I was coming off a really good year. And come January, it was time for the NWSL draft, and I had entered my name into the draft, assuming that I wouldn't get drafted because I wasn't really ever like a big name player or anything like that. So I just entered it just because, anything can happen. And like I thought, I didn't get drafted, and I got a call actually like 5 minutes from the assistant coach at the time of the Orlando Pride, and he invited me into preseason. A couple weeks later, I guess I did pretty well, and I got signed. So now here I am in year 2, and I signed a full contract a couple weeks into preseason this year. And it's been great. This year's been great. We're not having the best season, but just individually, I've gotten a lot of experience, gotten a lot of game time, and, I'm just taking it day by day and really enjoying the ride so far.
It has been. It's a unique season because obviously you mentioned there's been a coaching change since. So this is your first year with a new coach. But also it's been a World Cup year. So, for example, Alex Morgan obviously was with the U.S. team winning the World Cup. Marta was with Brazil. So what is that like? Because it's just a really unique year because players are kind of all over the place being a World Cup year, and it's kind of, it feels like a lot of moving parts.
Well, it's definitely been very different. They were there in the beginning of the season this year, and obviously love their presence there, and a shout out real quick to the 3 USA girls on my team for winning the World Cup. That's super sick. But they're back now, but during the time that all of them are gone, there is 9 of them. So we have a couple from Brazil, a couple from a couple from Brazil, a couple from Australia. We got a girl from Canada, 3 from the USA, a girl from Scotland. But no, I mean, it was really good. It was really good for players who really have flown under the radar and just don't have as much experience. So the young players, when all these girls went off to the World Cup, got a lot more experience under their belt and got a lot of, including myself, got more playing time. And, I think we were really lacking in, I'm going to say, leadership and just the experience of these older players who have been playing for so many years. So we were lacking that. But I mean, again, it was a really good experience, and they're back now, so that's super exciting. And they're ready to work. And no, it was just really good. It's been really good this year. I can't ask for anything better so far. So,
what's the biggest thing you've learned from the pro game that maybe you didn't know as you started this journey?
Well, that it definitely is. I'm going to say you have to be fully committed, absolutely committed. I mean, I, was one who really didn't take care of my body as much when I was in college. Like, I can skate by and just, not get a good night's sleep, and I can skate by into practice the next day and, still perform well. But now, I mean, if you do that, you stick out like a sore thumb. So, I mean, I think that's different. Commitment is a lot different. I mean, I've changed my commitment from college to the professional level. And just the speed of play in terms of soccer is just like a lot quicker, a lot faster. I mean, you're playing against the best of the best. I mean, in my shoes, you're playing against the best of the best every single day. So.
And you get to play with some of the best of the best. Alex Morgan, as we've talked about, Marta, as we've talked about. What is that like to be around, not only playing against some of the best players in the world, but playing with some of the best players in the world and the most recognizable players in the world?
Well, it's really fun, first and foremost. It's very, very fun. I've definitely seen my game get a lot better being surrounded by all these very good players. And just on the other side of things, like, these girls are actually very cool people. They're obviously older, but just they're very cool, and they're there to help you. They know we're young. They know I'm young. They're just there to, prepare me for my future career in soccer, and they're just really just personable and nice people. So it's just been really good being around them.
What is it like to, for you to see the World Cup, and you saw some of the UCF alums playing in the Women's World Cup there, and there were 4 players that were part of World Cup rosters, Alini Reyes, who just got inducted to the UCF Athletic Hall of Fame, Kat Sousa, obviously was on the Brazilian team. You had Sophie. I think Sophie was on the one of the other teams there, as well as Plummer, who's currently on the UCF team. What was that like for you?
That was really, honestly, very, very cool. I think I watched every single game that a UCF player was in. So just starting off with Kanya, I mean, she's younger than me, but I got to play a little bit here and there, just pick up games with her, and she just really is a great soul. Everything that you've heard and seen in the night magazines and all her talk all around Orlando is all very true. And she's, I mean, a fantastic center back and a tremendous leader. So that was really cool, just watching her shine and take Jamaica to their first World Cup. And then I personally never got to play with Alini. I know girls who played with Alini, but again, I've heard nothing but great things about her. She is a super respected goalkeeper and person as well. And with the remaining 2, Kathleen and Sophie, I actually got to play with both of them, which was a really good experience. Sophie, I got to play with my freshman year of college, and I personally think she was one of the best players I've ever played with. She's very well-rounded and such a great girl off the field as well. And then Kathleen has a special place in my heart. We got to play together my senior year. She was a senior as well, so we had a tight-knit group that year. And just seeing her just like start and play 90 minutes with Brazil on national television, I was just very, very proud of her, and she's come a long way, and she is only up to go because she's so talented, and she is one of the best center backs I've ever played with as well. So it was just really cool. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, it was certainly a lot of fun and a lot of pride. We're speaking with Bridget Callahan here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. You had a great career yourself at UCF. 3 NCAA tournament appearances, a couple of American Conference regular season championships. Have you had time to reflect on your UCF 4 years?
Yeah, I mean, whenever we get the gang back together, we always reflect on it. And, we just talk more about the times where, I mean, we had so much fun. I mean, I was lucky enough to have Tiff and Tim Sahadak as my coaches. And, they really evolved me and helped me grow into someone that, I like. And, I mean, looking back, senior year was just something that I really feel like I can't ever replace on a team that I'm in, because that was just really something. We always talk about it, just something super special. Unfortunate that we lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament, because I think we could have made some history there. And but no, it was really great. I love UCF. I would seriously promote it anywhere. I had the best time, won a couple conference championships, went to the NCAA tournament quite a few times. So no, I think I had a successful career, but I mean, I owe that all to my coaches and the teammates that I had in the 4 years that I was there. So
how did you end up going to UCF? What made you decide to go to UCF? Take us through that process, how you ended up going to UCF.
Oh, this is actually a very funny story. So at first, I was originally committed to VCU as a sophomore in college, which is Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia. And I was committed there because I loved the coaches that were recruiting me, and of course those coaches were Tim and Tiff Sahadak. So actually they were offered a job when Amanda Cromwell was accepted a job in UCLA. They were offered the job at UCF, and this was towards the end of my junior year, and they accepted it and called me and told me that they were going to accept the job and move to Orlando, and they actually offered me a scholarship to go to UCF. And at first I didn't commit right away. I opened up the recruiting process again, and I decommitted from VCU, and I ended up going on a couple recruiting visits, but my heart was with Tim and Tiff.
Wow.
So that's how I ended up at UCF.
That's wild how things could change. What is it?
Very wild.
Talk about Tiff, Coach Tiff, and what makes them so unique, and what is it that makes it so fun to play with, and the success they've had, I mean, speaks for itself. But what makes them so great? What makes them work, and why players want to play for them?
Well, first of all, I think they have a very, very good balance when it comes to soccer. I think that Tiff obviously is a great soccer player. She had a great career. I mean, and that isn't even giving her enough credit. But, she knows the game very well, and so does Tim. And, I think Tiff deals a lot with, like, the personal relationships, off the field things. And she is, as anyone who knows Tiff, is super personable and just empathetic and just really cares about the people that she works with. And then Tim has the side of the job, as he's that way as well, but he is more focused on, like, running the sessions where it's like tactical and like the actual soccer information, and Tiff rallies the troops, and we're all behind that. And they're just both very caring people, and it's a family culture, and they stick to that at UCF. So I just think it just really works what they do there. So
yeah, it does work. And then I think during your run there at UCF, you kind of played multi-positions, right? Didn't you have to change positions at some point during UCF because you were midfield and defense? Just talk about that during that run and changing positions.
Yeah, I think that developed me into a player. So my freshman year, I came in as a midfielder. I had some experience at defense. So I fortunately got to play in like almost every single game as a freshman. I came off the bench and got good minutes, so that was great. And we had a really good run my freshman year as well. We went to the Sweet 16. So just playing with all those players my freshman year in midfield just, I think, developed me more into just a better midfielder. And then come my sophomore and junior year, we were lacking like a center defender. So Tiff asked me, or she didn't ask me, she told me I was going to play center back. So I ended up playing there every game my sophomore and junior year, which I think molded me into more of like a defensive-minded player. And, I would never take those like 2 years back, because they really did mold me into a better player as well. And then going into my senior year, I was playing center back again. And speaking of Kathleen, she was actually playing midfield. And in our first game of the season, we played South Carolina. And 15 minutes into the game, I was playing center back, and 15 minutes into the game, I got a red card. And so they moved Kathleen from midfield back to center back during that game, and she played phenomenal. And I got put in the midfield after that because I was a midfielder, and the rest is history.
That is wild. I do remember that match. I remember watching that match. That was televised. And
yeah, Tiff was really mad at me for that one.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big showcase match against South Carolina, and it was like, wait a minute, we're going to be playing short the rest of this match? But yet they played well.
Yeah, they did.
And I almost thought that was a positive moving forward. I think I even talked to Coach about that. I mean, at the time, as you mentioned, she was not happy about it, but I think the team grew from that experience, and it would carry over, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, Kathleen ended up getting Defensive Player of the Year, and now she's starting as a center back in the World Cup. So, I mean,
it sounds to me like Kathleen. Well. It sounds to me Kathleen owes you then for taking the red card. Then it's all because of that. She owes you.
Yeah, we joke about that here and there. I hope she listens to this and hears this conversation.
I do remember that. That was wild. What was that like for you? Were you shocked when you got that red card?
I mean, okay, looking back on it, I completely understand why I got the red card. I didn't think it was going to be a red. I thought it was going to be a yellow. So, yes, I was completely shocked and just like, I mean, it was my first game of my senior year, and I was like, well, if this is how it's going to go my senior year, then this isn't going to be too fun. But no, I was just disappointed and just, pretty upset for like a couple of minutes sitting on the bench. I'm not going to lie, shed a quick tear. But no, and then, I mean, the team performed really well, and just they all gathered together, and all 10 of them did really well with the subs on the bench as well coming in. So, I mean, I was very proud of them and what they did, and, I mean, we brought that momentum into the remainder of our season, so.
Yeah, a week later, maybe one of the highlights of your career was that matchup against North Carolina. North Carolina coming to UCF on campus.
Yeah.
The obvious storylines with Coach Tiff playing at North Carolina for the legendary head coach, Coach Dorrance. Mm-hmm. And what a phenomenal match that was. I was there. It was a great crowd.
Man.
Well, yeah, go ahead. Tell us. What was that like to be a part of that magical night there when you guys knocked off North Carolina?
You don't really know how special it is till, like – in the moment, you don't know how special it is till it's kind of over, and just looking back on it, it's just like that is like top. That's like the most fun I've ever had. Like that was the most fun game ever. It was great. I mean, we were down in the first 7 minutes, 1-0. We came back, tied it up before halftime, I think it was, and then it was a nitty-gritty second half going into overtime. It was just like we were pulling, like we were pushing for a win, and we got it. And lo and behold, it was Christine Creighton, this girl we always called Stein, came out of the woodwork, scored the game winner, and I mean, it was amazing. You couldn't ask for anything better than that. We'll talk about that for the rest of our lives. The girls that were on that team. So, and of course, just Tiff beating her alma mater. That's awesome. And Tim, that is so fun for them. And just, yeah, that's a night, I'll never, ever forget, ever. So that was great.
Yeah, knocking off then number 4 ranked North Carolina. And did that give you all the confidence moving forward? Because you guys would just go on a big run. You dominated the American Conference, winning the regular season title. You were top 10, I think, at one in the polls, and ended up getting a national seed. Was that the turning point where you're like, hey, we can really do this could be really special?
It was. It really was. I remember I drove up to Jacksonville the day after the game. We had off the next day, and I just remember texting my teammate Kayla Adamak, and we were just talking about it, and we were like, wait, like, are we like really good? Like, we were just like, I think we could be something. Like, this really could be something this year. And just, everyone hopped on board, and we were that team that year, and that was great. And, we held on to a top 10 ranking, I think, the whole entire season, just swept the American Conference. And I mean, we were really good. So yeah, I think that definitely propelled us into the rest of the season.
Do you have a favorite goal or even a game other than the North Carolina game that jumps out to you from your career? Any goal that you just stands out to you? Like, wow, that's one of my, like, when I think back of plays I made in my college career, that's the one that stands out.
I mean, not really. I really was never someone who was super, like, flashy with goals or anything like that. I was just kind of, the little worker in the midfield. I usually scored all my goals with my head. And, I mean, I only scored, like, 3 a year, so it was really nothing special. But, I mean, I always think of Carol Rodriguez's goal from my sophomore year when she scored that bicycle kick.
Oh, yeah.
I actually, like, just kind of – I had the assist on that, which I think is the only reason why I got Defensive Player of the Week that week, because of Carol's goal. Because fun. I don't think I really performed well defensively. But, no, I think of that goal for sure, and I had the assist, and just, I mean, that was something that UCF will always remember as well, UCF soccer, so.
You guys were always great defensive teams, though. You bring that up. You're kind of jokingly about being Defensive Player of the Week, but why were you all as a team so good defensively?
I think we were very good defensively because I think Tiff really instilled, like, a competitive nature into all of us, and we were nitty-gritty at practice. Like, we gave 100%, and practice was always super, super competitive. We always played 4v4, and just, I mean, she always told us that she did that at North Carolina as well when she was in college. So, I mean, just none of us like to lose, and I think that's just, that plays into your defensive role. So we were all just nitty-gritty little defenders.
What's the message you give to the current and maybe future Knights with the program? Because I know with the tradition that UCF soccer has, I'm sure you heard about it when you first arrived and you learned about it. I mean, all the great players that have been before you, the tradition, the success going back to when Michelle Akers was playing there and things like that. What's the message from within there? Because I'm sure you still follow the program closely.
So the message I would give, like, to former or current players right now.
Yeah.
I would say just, like, if you can do it, every single day. I mean, you get to practice every single day. Just don't really take anything for granted. I mean, some days I would go into practice and just be like, oh man, like, I'm so tired, but and, like, some days I still do that, but just looking back in college, you really only have a certain 4 years. Some people get 5, and even some people get 6, but, you only have these certain amount of years, and becoming a professional athlete is not guaranteed whatsoever, so might as well just take this time and roll with it. Like, give it your all every single day. So, and you're playing for something way more than just yourself. You're playing for the people that were before you and the people who are after you, and you're playing for your teammates, and you're playing for your coaches, and you're most importantly playing for your university. So just, take it all in and just be the best you can be.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good. How talk about the schedule, because we're going to talk about this. You still got a lot of soccer ahead of you here this season in the league.
I do.
The league doesn't end. The regular season does not end till October.
Mid-October.
Mid-October. So you've got a lot of games left here, a lot of ground to turn the season and end with the goals you want. But that's so different than the college season, which seems like a sprint in comparison from August to November. Describe the differences there as one who's played both.
Well, in college, we used to have Thursday, Sunday games. And then, sometimes we would get a random weekend off. So, I mean, it was a quick turnaround from Thursday to Sunday. My freshman year, it was actually Friday, Sunday. So that was a very quick turnaround. But, so Thursday, Sunday, the people who played 90 minutes would get a lot of recovery time in, and we would go in the pool, foam roll, this and that. And comparing that to playing professionally, it's only one game like a weekend, and some weekends you have off, and we have a lot of off days during the week. So usually we have 1 and 2 off days during the week, but we go really hard on the days that we don't have off. We're out there for like 2.5 hours, and then have gym sessions and meetings with the Pride. So, I mean, it's a lot of stuff that you have to do on your own, like recovering and things like that. So, I mean, that's where the difference lies. It's just so much more. I think in college it was just like so much more soccer, but the level is just so much higher professionally, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It's just wild to me, the drastic differences there, and like the college soccer is like a sprint. Because I know I've talked to coaches, some college coaches want to think about the 2 semesters just to be more fair. Because it's just, a lot of times a team, like I know in last season UCF for the women's team, they had some injuries early, and they had to, they were just trying to figure things out. And by the time they were starting to figure things out, poof, the season was done. And it's just, whereas you have the luxury with your team. You could still, you've got time to kind of get in, get everybody together and get into that on the same page.
I guess only the strong survive in college, right?
That's true. That's true. A couple last things before I let you go. Do you, as players in the league, in the pro league here, talk about continuing that momentum? Obviously, a lot of eyeballs on the Women's World Cup, a lot of TV viewership. The league just signed a TV deal with ESPN. They're going to air matches are going to air on ESPN2, ESPN News. In fact, the recent match with you guys against Portland aired on ESPN News. So, do you as players? Do you talk about that? About continuing there to bring more interest, more eyeballs to your product, to the league, and continue the momentum from the World Cup?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had a 2-year agreement with Lifetime, because our games they used to be aired on Lifetime. We had a 2-year agreement on Lifetime, and then coming into the season this year, our second year with Lifetime, they just, I guess, cut the contract, and thankfully Yahoo Sports picked up the league, and now there's games on Yahoo Sports that people can watch all the time. And coming off the World Cup, ESPN is now picked us up, and games are being broadcasted there. So hopefully it just, keeps growing and getting better. And I can guarantee you that it is going to continue to grow, because rumors are going around about certain things, about expansion of the league, and just, I think, of course, the United States put women's soccer once again on the map like they've been doing. So I think that more and more people will come out and watch, and also watch what's being aired.
Yeah, no, I think it's no question. I think that's the big steps, and sometimes it takes a while. I know people kind of want it done quickly. It's not as simple as that, but I do think there's grounds to be made, and I think that shows though that there's interest with the World Cup and the individual players on those teams, and it's now you get to see them in their markets, and I think it's just getting the word out and getting the exposure out. And I think that's huge for you guys, which much better situation than, say, a handful of years ago. So,
no, absolutely. I completely agree.
Last question. What's going to be the key for your team now, the Pride here? As you mentioned, we still got a lot of soccer to go here. Not the start of the year you wanted, but I feel like you guys are starting to find yourselves and figure yourselves out. Mentioned the players coming back. So what's going to be the key here to have this run and success that y'all want to have?
I've always said that team chemistry is just very, very important in the success of your team and winning. I think that's why we were so successful my senior year. Going back to UCF, my senior year, we all just really enjoyed each other and respected each other on and off the field, and there was just like a really big sense of love and community, and we did really well. And I just think that that's something that we're definitely potentially lacking on the Pride. It's just that, but of course professional soccer is different because everyone is fighting every single day for their job because it is their job. But I think going forward, something that will definitely benefit us is team chemistry and just getting along with each other and understanding each other's, what people are good at and what people are bad at, and accepting it for what it is and moving forward together as a team. So I think team chemistry is definitely going to be a very, very big factor.
Well, we're going to be rooting you on. We're excited for you. We're proud of you. We're excited to see you on the pitch and playing at Exploria Stadium here in Orlando as the season continues here. Bridget Callahan, UCF great, and, of course, with the Orlando Pride as well, here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Check her out. Of course, follow Orlando Pride Soccer. Go all the information online. Bridget, thank you so much from a busy schedule here during the season. Glad to do this. It's good to catch up with you, and we'll definitely be keeping in touch and talking to you down the road again.
Of course, Eric. I very much appreciate you for having me on your show. And go Knights!
And thanks to Bridget Callahan for joining us here on the Black Gold Banneret Podcast. Lots of great stuff to get into there, guys. And Jeffrey, what a great story for her, obviously. Getting to UCF, playing under Coach Taff and the Sahadaks, and the great career she had. And now here she is in the pros in the NWSL and post-World Cup. And she's going to have a lot of great stories to tell in her post-career, isn't she?
Look at the names that she's played alongside. Obviously, not just for UCF, which you guys mentioned, but with the Pride, Alex Morgan, Marta, Ashlyn Harris, goalkeeper, Ali Krieger, Sydney LaRue. I mean, an amazing array of talent that she's played alongside throughout her career. Talk about having a front row seat, and she's right with those players in terms of that competition. So, and see, that's one of those things that I think is kind of underrated. We only talk about sometimes, quite often, about stars, right, playing at certain levels. But Bridget is one of those players who's carved out a nice little professional career for herself. Is she on the USA national team? No, maybe one day she will be, but she understands what it takes to make a career out of soccer in a women's soccer league, and I hope that as her career progresses, that she does get even a little bit more opportunity with the Pride. Sometimes it's a little bit tough, considering that the competition with the national players is back. But when you play alongside the best, sometimes that steps up your game too. So hoping Bridget continues to step it up here for. On the Pride, even alongside some of that great competition. Lord knows there's plenty of exposure there. The Pride are one of the premier franchises in the NWSL,
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting, as we talked about the new TV deal now. A lot of their matches will be on ESPN2, and ESPN News picked up some of those matches. Can the pro game continue the momentum from the World Cup? And I'm curious to see if the Pride can build the momentum, because you, Jeff, I felt like this has always been a women's soccer town. I mean, UCF women's soccer draws well. They've had the success and the tradition, which Bridget talked about, carrying that over from the previous group to the next group to the next group. And it'll be interesting to see if that carries over with the Pride. And I think she's one of those players you have to have on your roster as a glue person to help you in the intangibles and win games. And I don't think it's an accident that since when she's been playing more, that we're off to a slow start this year. They've started to play better. Now that they get reinforcements back, they can make a run here in the next few months and make a chance at run at the postseason. So we'll see if that carries over. But I mean, it's a rich history here of women's soccer, and with UCF soccer season starting, as you mentioned, around the corner post World Cup, I think that could also adds a little bit of a boost, don't you think, to the interest?
I would hope so. I think that the key for that league is going to be the exposure. By the way, getting those matches, and we've talked about this a gazillion times, right, Eric? Getting those matches on the ESPN networks when I think before they were on Lifetime, is that right?
They were on Lifetime, and then Yahoo carried some games online.
Yeah, that ain't going to do it. I'm sorry. Lifetime is where you go to watch really bad made-for-TV movies starring Shannon Doherty, but
well, it shows the first match they aired, the first couple matches they've aired on ESPN2 and ESPN News, the ratings are way up compared to Lifetime. Because you're right, people just don't. The audience that's going to Lifetime aren't sports audience. Let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. But
we have more a likelihood that people will casually flip to ESPN2 or ESPN News and catch your soccer.
And I'd be interested to see what happens if in the next couple years if ESPN Plus actually gets into the act a little bit, because women's soccer is as we know, it has a relatively small in number but very passionate audience. And it's one of those places where a entity like ESPN can help promote that brand to those fans better than any other entity out there. Certainly better than Lifetime, I'll tell you that. So yeah, I'm hoping that works out for the league and for the Pride, because they have a good product. They have a number of stars on the team, and that's where, I mean, two of the biggest stars in the World Cup play for the Orlando Pride right now. Alex Morgan and Marta.
It should be better. They should be drawing better. And look, they haven't had the success I think that you would have thought, considering the roster that they have.
Yeah.
That's why they made a coaching change after last season. But there's potential there. There's no reason why they can't have success and be one of the model franchises in the NWSL. But they have the fan bases, as we've seen that with Orlando City on the men's side.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason why they wouldn't get the support on the women's side. But you got to put out, you got to produce, you got to get wins, and we'll see what happens. But having players like Callahan, I think, is heading helps in the right direction too.
Yeah.
Because you can't just have a bunch of star players, because then it's just a cluster there, and then nobody knows their roles.
Yeah. And by the way, more exposure on ESPN means more dollars for the franchises, and that means better salaries for the players. And I think that's the other thing that's really important is, if you can, the better the players are paid, the better product you're going to see, because you're going to be able to attract better talent over to this league. We see a lot of UCF players go overseas and play women's soccer professionally with teams in countries like Germany.
That's
for
what
example.
Alini's doing.
Right.
Alini Reyes is doing that on the Europe side. So you're right.
Wouldn't it be nice for them to bring her over here, stateside, right? So
sure. Right.
That would be that's something I think it bears watching in the next few years. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We come back. We'll dive into some of what Eric's talking about with the with his top 25 games of 2018, 2019 or UCF, a little series that we're pumping out. We're finishing up, but we're going to try and help Eric out with a little writer's block that he's having. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. blackandgoldbanneret.com, UCF_Banneret on Twitter, Facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, Brian Murphy with you here as we finish things up here on this Thursday. Remember to, by the way, also hit up our Fan Pulse as well. We just partnered up with, obviously, this is something that SB Nation is doing nationwide with all their team brands. And we're creating a Fan Pulse Fan Top 25. And we're doing it nationally, on a national scale. And we're aiming. Now, I've gotten a lot of flack of late from some UCF fans who are like, "Hey, man, why is there just a G5 option for what's my favorite team when I sign up?" Look, it's beyond my control. Just pick G5, move on. And the more of, and here's my thing: the more of you sign up for this that say, "I'm a UCF fan," all right, the more of a case I can make to the folks at the mothership saying, "Hey, we need to have a specific UCF," and actually overall, because UCF's not the only group of 5 team that's represented on the UCF on the SB Nation team brands. Hey, we need our own thing here. Okay, so help me help you is what I'm trying to say. Okay, we're in the middle of a good series here that we're trying to get done before the next football season starts. Of the top 25 games of 2018-2019, Eric Lopez has been the captain driving the ship on this, and we're into the top 10. But Eric, you're telling me that you're having some writer's block on this. Okay, so we've got.
That's hard, man. These are hard, man. To try to all these different sports and various things, try to kind of be fair and quantify it, and not try to be too repetitive on the sport. I mean, it's been it's a hell of a year, man.
We have the just recent. Yeah, we just put up number 12, which was the baseball win against Houston, a game that Brian Murphy, you remember extremely well.
Yes.
maybe you're chagrined. It was a 5-hour game. The number 11 coming up. I think you've got the UCF game against Cincinnati, college game day time. Number 10, UCF volleyball clinching the American. And so now we have 9 left to go. So we have 2 football games, 4 basketball games, that's 6, 1 men's soccer game, that's 7, the baseball's done. Tennis, we have 3. Florida, South Florida, and Florida State. So one of them's got to go.
Well, or one of them could be just thrown in there as a mention when I list them. I've done that too, where I'll mention a couple games on a specific ranking. For example, like, do you guys think? Let me ask you this question:
Okay.
Do you think the VCU win and the Duke loss should be put together? Because I feel weird ranking a loss on its, but you say no, Brian. You say no.
No, we kind of already been through this, and the fans kind of agree that was the best game of the year, even in a loss.
Right. Because that was game of the year in the Banneret Awards too, and VCU I think was a separate game from that too, right?
I maybe if the VCU game is on the list, that's fine, because of what it means for the program. But the Duke game, even in a loss, is unforgettable.
So let's do this. Let's do this because outside of the tennis, which I think I know. What I'll probably end up doing is 2 of those tennis matches will be put together, limped in when I do the ranking. So that's how that'll take care of that. But Mr. Brian Murphy, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my God!
Oh boy!
Is the only person of the 3 of us that was at every basketball and football game still listed, right, Mr. Sharon?
I believe that is correct.
And the football games that are left are the 2 Memphis games, the regular season game at Memphis and the conference championship game. The men's basketball games that are still there are going to be ranked are the Houston win at Houston, the win at home against Cincinnati on senior night, the win against VCU in the opening round of the NCAA tournament, and the aforementioned loss against Duke. For you personally, rank those games since you were at them, all of them.
So I'm ranking those 5 games.
6.
I think it's 6.
Yeah.
There's the Cincinnati football game is also in there too.
No. It's the 4 basketball games. So Duke, VCU,
Cincinnati, and what else?
And at Houston, the college game day at Houston game. Okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and then the 2 Memphis games for football. All right, you're on the spot, Murphy. Don't disappoint us.
Yeah, this is weird. All right, I will go. Boy, they're all great. They really are. I will go. Yeah, no, it's well. Thanks UCF Athletics for putting together some freaking classics. Boy, I will go VCU 6. The first win in tournament program NCAA tournament history is probably 6, and then I will go.
I'll defend you on that one because that win was probably about the most expected out of all 6 of them. I would say
it was also the least. I know it was also the least suspenseful. It was also it had a great narrative. It is. It's historic, but man, oh man, I'm going to hate this. I feel like it's. I will say this. I feel like the Duke game is still number 1. Even in front of those 2 football games. I think the next game is probably the Memphis regular season win, which is a fantastic win. Obviously, it was just a bonkers game in the rain and whatnot.
It was a Steinbeck novel is what it was.
It was. And whereas the conference title game win is probably less, it's probably not as good. It's not as good of a game. I mean, the conference title game win is not aesthetically as good of a game as the regular season win, but with all of the Milton surroundings and Mac starting that game and how UCF came back from it was even a worse first half than they had at Memphis, it's probably a better game. That should be higher up over the regular season win. But to rank it all, VCU 6, regular season win at Memphis 6.
VCU 6.
And then we'll go Houston win 3rd or 4th, then Houston win 4th, and then Cincinnati probably 3rd, Memphis title game wins 2nd, and the Duke loss 1.
Okay. So which Memphis game you have at 2?
I had the title game because of obviously the meaning of it and the Milton storyline and how they came back from literally it was the worst first half I've ever seen any football team play on defense, and plus Mac had 3 fumbles. But I'm more wrestling with maybe there's more basketball games that should be ranked in front of the title game for football. Should we put the Cincinnati game in front of the title game for football? Maybe I'm more open to that because I still think the Duke game is 1.
I tend to put, this is going to sound weird, I'm going to put the Houston basketball game ahead of the Cincinnati basketball game.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. That game more or less clinched the NCAAs for the basketball team, and I think that was even more of a catalyst for that team than even after the Cincinnati game. I don't think they win the Cincinnati game without winning the Houston game, personally.
Good point.
Because of the fact that that game was supposed to be Houston's coming out party. They'd won a gazillion games in a row at home, and UCF was also there that morning, right? Yeah, yes. UCF comes in to their house, ends that
where they had lost more than a year.
In more than a year, and took it to them, and took care of business. I thought that was ended up being a more significant. And the Cincinnati game was the launching pad for the Cincinnati game. So I would actually put the Houston game as the second biggest basketball game of the year.
Would you put that in front of the football title game?
I would not. I would put the football title game. I think I'm with you. I would put the football title game second. I think I would because it was a there was something about that game. I don't know. How do you guys feel about this? There was something about that game just in the building that day. It felt so different. Obviously, the emotion of the week before and losing McKenzie and all that. And what's going to happen with Darryl Mack? The way the game played out. But even putting all that aside, there was this feeling in the building of absolute vindication on the part of the players, on the part of the fan base, and especially I thought on the part of the coaches. That, who were all in their first season at UCF and taking over from Scott Frost, we are this good. It's no joke now. It should not be a surprise. 2 straight undefeated seasons up to the bowl game. 25 wins in a row. There's something. I think there's something magic about that number 225. That's the other thing too. And to do that on the home field, in prime time, it really did feel like a real vindication of a lot of things. That this is no fluke. I don't know. Do you feel that way about that?
I get it. I think losing the bowl game it doesn't hurt as much since you already won the conference title game. That you feel like, again, we've done it back-to-back. We've run back-to-back undefeated, in the season, title game wins. I get some of that vindication. Some of the whole, we don't need – McKenzie's a big part of us, but we're more than just McKenzie Milton. We can win with different people and come back the way they did. I get it. As I'm talking about it, that game was really ugly for, and I'm not just saying that as, a UCF fan. I'm saying that as a man, that game was bad.
And you guys just want every game to be like this, Donatellan artwork,
Well, it would be nice if, there was a game where, the guy wasn't blowing coverage 20 yards away. Maybe the tackling would be great once in a while. Or tag.
It was rough, but I get everything you're saying. I think the last thing I'll say is I feel very confident with ranking the first NCAA tournament victory in men's basketball history last on this.
That is wild. That is wild.
Yeah.
I've never done that before. Without that game, we don't have a Duke game.
I get it. But it was. I have a feeling like that result was. I don't want to say expected, but it was the least surprising.
Well,
UCF was a 1-point favorite going in, weren't they? Or was it 1 point?
No, UCF was a favorite going into that game. I thought.
Yeah, maybe they were 1 point favorite. It was a push. Again, that roster was all banged up. Their point guard was hurt with a
Vegas missed on that one.
Yeah, it was just UCF was a better team. I get it. It means a lot for the program. They don't have that game. They don't have the game without that win. But we're talking about just the game in a vacuum. What are the best games? That is clearly not a better game than the Duke game, not even close. My argument for Cincinnati over Houston is, I guess, more of a senior night thing. The whole Taco's mom and brother are there. It's it's the sign off for BJ Taylor and all the seniors on this team. Also, yes, the Houston win got them probably into the tournament, but the Cincinnati win really locked it up, and even the players acknowledged that afterward. Like, they wouldn't do that after the Houston win, but after the Cincinnati win, they finally did acknowledge they were going to make the NCAA tournament. So there was I guess a slight the door was ajar for them not to make it until that Cincinnati win. So it had a lot of cachet in that realm. So anyway, yes, a loss should be number one on this list.
I know, man. I'm still like, how did that ball not go in? Unbelievable.
All right, real quick. So, any issues with my rankings up until this point? Anything that jumps out?
Well, I was going to ask you about ranking it's baseball, so duh. About ranking the Houston game in front of the Spicer game. And again, I'm coming at it from a story angle. So I thought the Spicer game was an amazing story and an amazing performance, amazing single-man performance considering what he had gone through. I don't know if there's any – and again, it's not like they were far apart. I think you had one, like, 2 spots above the other, 3 spots above the other. But if I was ranking, I probably would have had the Spicer game ahead of the Houston game. But just my thought.
Yeah, that's fair. You could make the case. The reason I put the Houston game ahead is because that game had a little bit of everything. It was senior night. I remember you and I were there. We both said this was a must-win because if
Absolutely.
they didn't, at the time, they didn't win. They basically had to win the tournament. Turns out maybe they had to anyway. But it's a Houston series. The Terry Rooney coming back factor. His first game back, and there was some interesting storylines that developed during the game involving Terry Rooney that we're not going to get into. But that also influenced my rankings a little bit. I'm not going to lie.
Things that happened away from the field.
Hashtag free Logan.
Free Logan.
because I got to tell you. That atmosphere was what I mean. I'm not saying that there was a packed house or everything, but the crowd that was there was into that game, and it was tense, and it really got tense with the whole Rooney stuff every time he came out, to some extent, and then the game was kind of a back and forth.
It was
had a little bit of everything.
It was testy.
Yeah.
It
was testy. You had UCF with the big lead early. Houston would come back, and then the unlikely hero, a senior, Brandon Hernandez, was probably was criticized, let's just say, by some fans for performing. Had the walk-off hit in this wild game that goes 5 hours that had a little bit of everything. I thought it was an amazing game from the performance, and I think people left there thinking UCF's got a chance to make the tournament and make a run at the conference tournament, whereas if they lost that, I think people would have checked out.
I've got one issue. Where was it? Oh, there it is. All right, so, I forgot all about the football games earlier in the year, like the Temple game and the Cincinnati game. I feel like you have the Cincinnati game that's coming out tomorrow on number 11.
Spoiler alert!
Spoiler alert, right? It's everyone's. But I thought that there was one that I thought should have been a little bit higher. I thought the baseball game against Memphis could have been higher.
Says the guy that called the game.
Obviously. I also would like to nominate that men's soccer game against UConn to go higher than at least one basketball game. Because that was probably
it went higher than the SMU win in basketball.
Well, then at least one of the remaining basketball games, and I'll tell you why. That was if you watched that game from beginning to end, that was one of the most dramatic events I've seen in a long time. This is men's soccer, and to come back from down 2-0 at the half, and opportunity after opportunity, and to finally score that goal late to tie it, and then to win it on a free kick in golden goal fashion. And I know UCF did not win the American, and that was in the semifinal, but I really don't care. That was my nominee. I think I picked that one for Game of the Year, I think. when we were voting on
game.
banner. It was just an
exciting
astounding event to be at. It was a game that had everything to me.
It was. I agree with everything. The problem is, you mentioned it. Number one, it was a semifinal game, and they lost the conference title game the next match. If they won the conference title, I think you probably would have moved up a spot or two. It's kind of like baseball, to Brian's point, the Memphis game. The thing that kind of hurt some of these rankings for baseball is they didn't make the NCAA tournament. I just felt uncomfortable ranking so highly these games from a team that didn't even make the tournament in a year where everybody made the tournament. Had the Spicer game gotten UCF into the NCAA tournament, it probably would have been in the top 10, for example. Yeah. But it didn't. It didn't, in the big picture thing. Same thing with the Memphis game. And I think with men's soccer, it really didn't affect them from a seeding. They still got the high seed. They still got to host a tournament, so it didn't really affect them. It was an exciting game. I agree with you, and that's why I had it late. But I can't rank that over. I believe I ranked the volleyball ahead. A 5-set match against Cincinnati that was basically helped UCF win the conference championship. You both were at that volleyball match. That was incredible.
Yeah, that was really good. And they're facing a team that had, arguably one of the best players in the nation at Cincinnati. That Cincinnati girl. I forgot her name.
Yeah. Corin Thompson.
No, it was great. That was a fantastic match. Again, that match had storylines too about UCF's winning streak and. Yeah, no, I get it.
All right. Well, you're just going to have to deal with whatever situation we put up there. So Eric will sort it out.
Find out who do I agree with.
Right.
Is these get released in the coming days. See,
well, Jeff, do you disagree with me that the 2 game is 1? What's your number 1? What's your number 1?
See, this is the problem. If that follow-up goes in, there's no doubt that it's number 1, right? I mean, it's just so hard for me to say, yeah, it's number 1 because of I'm still astounded at how that shot didn't go in. Both of them. But
say it, Jeffrey.
Yeah. All right. It's the leader in the clubhouse. It's the leader in the clubhouse. I got to go with it. So. All right. Well, I don't know. If you guys have a nomination, by the way, let us know because I want to know if you guys have a different nomination for all this. We've got a lot to, we have a lot to go over. So, it's been, I tell you, it's been quite the experience going through this and reliving some of these. I forgot all about the Temple football game and the Cincinnati football, especially the Temple game, which. Man, that was a nail biter. I mean, that was looking back on it, that was really something, that game. So I really enjoyed that game quite a bit, and some of the other ones too. So all right, so we'll finish it up this week with Eric's top 10, or actually next week with Eric's top 10 as we get ready for women's soccer to start up just the week after. All right, let's finish this thing up, boys. We've got Eric, we know you're working on the final top 10 games of the year. Brian, what are you going to be? We got Media Day coming up, don't we?
We got Media Day coming up in 5 days. Or 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5 days, Jeffrey. Okay, count.
Yeah.
Media Day on the 30th. So we'll have Coach Heupel and 15 players hold a bunch of one-on-ones on Tuesday. And then the next day, Wednesday, 31st, is the first practice of training camp. We are that's the training
it's
camp
here.
Opens, and then from there, you know how it goes. We'll be less than a month away from the game against Florida A&M.
I know.
So, yeah, I'll be there on Tuesday. I'll be there on Wednesday. I'll be there throughout August as they have post-practice availabilities. Don't ask about the quarterbacks, yada, yada, yada.
Don't ask. I forgot that one in the Ask the Bannerets. Who's going to be the quarterback, Brian Murphy?
Yeah, right.
So, all right, and I've got a few more things from football season last year that I want to wrap up, some statistical analyses. I finally finished up that recruiting table, so I'm going to work. I got some stuff set up on that, so that should be a lot of fun as well. Don't forget, follow us at Black Gold Banneret. For all the latest, follow us at UCF_Banneret on Twitter and also Facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret. And follow us each individually at Jeff_Sharon, Spokes_Murphy, and Eric Lopez ELO. So that'll do it for us for this week. For all of us here at Black and Gold Banneret, thanks for listening. This has been the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast, and we will catch you next week with fallout from UCF Football Media Day.
We'll be there. We'll be there.
And by the way, my goal is to not ask a single football-related question to any player.
Good job.
So
I like how you're coming from a different angle.
Yeah, I'm coming in hot with that. So, all right, we'll see you. Well, hopefully it was. And by the way, one last thing I wanted to pass along. I wanted to thank Kelly Cartner, who told us that she'll be moving on from UCF Athletics. Kelly did a lot of work as in communications with several different sports, including softball. She's helping out. She did a lot of stuff with soccer and several other sports as well. And we want to thank Kelly for her outstanding help throughout the time she was there. Kelly, we're going to miss you. Thank you so much. For all of us here at Black and Gold Banneret, I'm Jeff Sharon saying thanks for listening. This has been the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.